Okay, Pops. The continued saga in automotive, retail automotive, aka just trying to buy a car, it's getting harder and harder to buy a car. Now,
Yes.
we're fighting against not only the dealers,
Yeah.
we're fighting against Enterprise and Hertz and Avis. Remember when Hertz went bankrupt? Can't we just go back to the good old days?
Well, we've seen to have gone past the good old days.
Now we're back to here we are right now. What am I talking about, Dad?
I think you're talking
Hertz.
about fleet sales and how the manufacturers are trying to figure out, who to feed, basically. Do they feed the dealers? Do they feed the customers who have placed an order? Or do they feed their fleet buyers that, in essence, buy over 1 million new cars a year from them?
So can you explain to our audience, because we talk a lot about buying cars from dealerships, can you explain what fleet sales is? I thought naively, and we'll link to the article down below or the conversation back in the YA community, I thought naively that fleet sales all happen through dealers. They don't.
No, 90% of them happen where the fleet buyers buy direct from the manufacturers, and they negotiate their own deals, their fleet deals for however large their fleet purchase is going to be that year. They negotiate that directly with the manufacturer. About 10% of fleet purchases, city, state, municipal purchases of vehicles, things like that, those normally go out for bid to local dealers, and so they get purchased through dealerships.
But the vast majority, 90% of fleet sales are happening directly to the OEM, directly to the manufacturer.
Yeah, Hertz is negotiating directly with Ford, with Nissan, with Toyota, with GM, with whatever brands they're offering up, with Stellantis.
Understood.
They're negotiating directly with the manufacturers on those.
And so here's what we're seeing nowadays is that those buyers, just like you or me or anyone going to a dealership, are hungry for inventory, and they can't get it, just like you and I can't get it, just like our viewers out there can't get it.
And they those sales might not necessarily be as profitable for the manufacturers because, large fleet buyers can negotiate larger fleet discounts, or at least they could in the past.
Yeah.
And now they've lost a little bit of that leverage. But the manufacturers are going, well, really, who do we build the car for? If we sell it to the dealership, we can make more than if we sell it to a fleet buyer.
Yep.
If we just sell it to the dealership so it's for dealership inventory, we make more than if we sell it to the fleets. Did you just allude to that? Do fleet buyers, like let's say I am Enterprise, Enterprise Holdings, or whatever the company is, are they paying under invoice for inventory, you think? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're paying less than the dealer buyer might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, the local dealer, that might retail 3,000 new Fords.
Okay, good point. It's all about volume.
Yeah, a year. And so if they retail 3,000, maybe they buy 4,000 or 4,500, where Enterprise says to them, okay, we'll buy 400,000. It's the same principle as to why a bank will give a lower interest rate to a dealership, because the dealership can place more volume.
All volume.
So, and that's what fleet sales is. And so with the chip shortage and other supply chain issues, these manufacturers have to decide who they're going to build the cars for.
Not to mention the fact that a lot of the rental car companies actually sold off fleets at the beginning of the pandemic, so they've got lighter fleets. We've had for the longest time now, months, we've had a rental car crunch.
Yes.
I mean, prices for rental cars, as a consumer, to rent them are sky high. And
like everything else in automotive.
Like everything else, period. But then on the flip side, these rental car companies are trying to restore their fleets, and they can't. Governments are trying to restore their fleets, and they can't. And so it makes you really scratch your head and say, you realize that, okay, all these Ford F-150s that are sitting in fields, heck, they might not even be making it to dealership lots. They might be on these prior commitments. Because are you really going to ruffle the feathers of a buyer who moves 400,000 pieces of inventory, or a government entity? Are you going to ruffle your feathers and say, hey, we can make more money by selling these to the dealers? Probably not, is my guess. You don't want to mess up those relationships.
No, but don't forget that the fleets last year probably canceled
This is true.
A large percentage of their incoming fleet purchases. And manufacturers have long memories. They know.
Maybe.
I guarantee it.
You're thinking back to your factory reps that you used to work with.
It's human nature.
Yeah, you don't forget those things.
Yeah, which is why the manufacturers are having difficulties getting chips, because the chip manufacturers remember that, well, they canceled all their chip orders last year during the start of the pandemic.
I found it fascinating. They talked about in the automotive news article the timing for fleet purchases. So I'll read this verbatim. While not all fleet contracts are negotiated in the third quarter, many have traditionally been done at this time of year because it is mutually beneficial for automakers and large fleet operators. Betts, one of the fleet managers, said. The people buying fleet cars want to get on the front end of the new model year because they hope to dispose of them before they become old model year, because the biggest cost is depreciation, and because January and February are usually not great consumer selling months.
So there's slowest this mutual consumer selling months of the year.
This mutual, benefit there. However, we anticipate that some of maybe the influx of inventory could start to happen towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, possibly, depending on all those Ford F-150s sitting in parks and things like that. It'll be interesting to see, where do they go.
Yes. Well, the lesser equipped ones very well could go into fleets.
And hey, they could be missing modules, but they'll be going into fleets.
Yeah, they the next time you run a pickup from Enterprise, don't be surprised if the cruise control doesn't work, because it doesn't have the... No, I'm kidding.
Well, thanks for talking this through, Pops. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope you have a better understanding of fleets, and it has nothing to do with the end of a product.